Good afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time you are listening to this episode of Sticky Note Conversations. And welcome back. My name is Erika Washington, your host of Sticky Note Conversations. And I'm really excited, as I always say, that this was probably going to be one of my most favorite conversations ever. But usually it's always true. So just go along with it. So I am really super excited to, one, be in studio because, as I've said before, a lot of times I am on Zoom with folks because of my travel schedule and other folks' travel schedules. To be able to really connect with folks and be in the same room with them, I think is really special. And so I get that opportunity today to be in space with, in community with one of my favorite people, Miss Danielle. Miss Danielle Green is a world-renowned cosmetologist. And I say world-renowned because I've been to other countries and she's done my hair. So I feel like, you're certainly world-renowned, but I'm sure you are anyway.
All right.
But to give a little backstory, I found Danielle in her salon, Radically Curly, which is located in Las Vegas technically I guess that's Henderson, right? That's Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
But Vegas is Vegas. Everything's Vegas. Except for people who live in Henderson who like to say they live in Henderson. So never mind. But anyway, I digress. My youngest child decided upon themselves to cut their hair. They wanted some style that was very emo, very anime, very something. And our hair texture don't really do that. Not for real. And also, we don't own scissors that sharp, except for maybe the scissors that you use for cutting meat, which I'm also glad she didn't use those. But she used the random scissors that were in my bathroom to do a little hair cutting session. And I kept asking, what's going on with your hair? Because you kept walking around with a hoodie on in the house and all of that. And finally, I was like, I need you to take the hoodie off. I need to see what's happening. What is happening here? It was special. It was a special hairdo that, it was special. That's all I'm going to say about that. And I did my best to not freak out because the first thing that came to mind was my grandmother, and my grandmother being very particular about, not cutting your hair. My grandparents, I should say, but my grandfather too. But I think there's something with Black girls and cutting their hair. And I'm not really sure what that is, but, somewhere along the lines where it's like, we're not able to grow our hair sometimes as well as other folks. And so if you have the blessing of having long hair, then you need to keep long hair. And so growing up, I had really long hair down to the middle of my back and all of that. And so I wanted bangs, and even getting bangs was a thing. Like, don't cut your hair. And so I didn't want that reaction to be my reaction because I also wanted my child to have some autonomy over her head. Mm-hmm. However, this was not the thing. This was not the move. So I got on the horn trying to figure out, and a friend of mine had been to Radically Curly and said it was a really great salon, if you can get in. And I was like, okay, let me figure this out. So I, got an appointment. The appointment was a little far out from the emergent need that I had, but it was I took what I could get because I also wanted to go somewhere that understood Black hair and could possibly give her close to what she was looking for, maybe, possibly. Anyway, all that to say, we got there, and Danielle, I think, along with another super stylist there, Chevy, really worked their magic to try to give my child what she wanted. But even more so, Miss Danielle took my baby outside and had a long conversation about her hair and about how the feeling that needs to be instilled in all young Black girls and young Black children on how special and important our hair is, that it is a crown, that people want our hair all the time, and that the fact that our hair can stand up on end and defy gravity is a beautiful thing, and not something that we need to try to correct in any way. And so I've been a fan, and I have been a client ever since. Even took my locks out because I was like, oh, there's somebody who can do curly hair, because I had locks for the longest because I couldn't find anybody who could really like nurture my hair the way I wanted it done. And so this is one of the main reasons to have Danielle here on Sticky Note Conversations, is because there is just a inner beauty to you and an inner beauty to your salon. Your salon is not, it's different. Like the vibe is different and all of that. And, you know, you do some dope hair. So I wanted to talk to you about all the things, being a business owner, being a Black woman in this industry, like what all that's like. So all of that to say that was a really long introduction, but I would like to introduce you to the Sticky Note Conversation audience and family. Thank you for being here.
Wow. Thank you for having me. I'm blushing. I'm smiling so hard. I hope you can feel that coming through. Just hearing you play back that time with your daughter. It was a special time. It was actually a very emotional time. And that happens a lot in our salon, and it's so important that we continue to share that type of love and a genuine emotion with our younger clients that come in. So bringing me back to that moment, I'm actually getting a little teary-eyed about that, because I remember your face and I remember that you were just like, oh, what am I going to do?
Right.
You know, so thank you for having me. I feel very, very lucky and blessed to be here and to share. I'm ready.
Yay.
Let's do this.
And so I always start off asking people how they identify and how they introduce themselves, because we all have a lot of titles. And so, but when you walk into the room and you introduce yourself, how do you describe who you are?
Wow, I'm me. I'm Danielle. I don't like to carry titles. I think I'm always evolving. So today I could say I'm a salon owner, I'm a leader. What else? I love continuing to reinvent myself. So today I'm Danielle. I'm a salon owner. I'm a business owner. I am the owner of the only Black-owned curly hair salon in Las Vegas. But let me preface that by saying that there are other hairstylists that have opened salon suites that are also business owners that are in that same creative space. But we are a full-service hair salon here in Las Vegas, and I'm lucky to say that I'm the first one that did that. So I feel very blessed. So if I could put a title on anything, I would put it there, because I'm very, very proud of that.
So I want to start from the beginning.
Okay.
Because most people are not born and raised in Las Vegas. You know, I find very few of them. And I know you are a transplant of sorts into Las Vegas. Tell me about your journey to Las Vegas.
My journey to Las Vegas really started when I was in my 20s, and I traveled here with friends, and I really liked Vegas. It was just a little too hot. I never thought I would ever live here until I met a man that said, hey, you should move here. You'll be very successful here. You can do what you're doing there in Kansas City, Missouri, which is where I'm from. You could do that here and be way more successful. So I drank the Kool-Aid and I came.
And what was your first impression?
That it was nothing like what I was used to. I had lived in Atlanta, Georgia for a while and experienced the beauty industry there. And here in Vegas, the the lack of culture for me was a huge shock. I wasn't used to not seeing my people. And I don't know if it was because I was near the Strip where I first transplanted from. I was at a Veda salon, if I could say that here. And I was gobsmacked, really, like, what did I do? And I really wanted to go back home. I didn't enjoy my initial experience here, was not very positive. And then as it relates to the salon that I was at, it got a little bit worse before things got better. I was asked to become a partner in the business and become like an artistic director because this particular salon needed a lot of help. And so a lot of pressure was put on me to perform and to be this person that could save the day.
And you were still in your 20s?
I was actually 30 at this point.
Okay.
I had visited here in my 20s.
Okay.
So, it was a lot of pressure for a Black woman to come, from out of state to a strange, unfamiliar place and to really have a business kind of thrown in my lap. And even though I was very grateful of the opportunity, it was very challenging because at that time, I didn't have the resources or tools that I felt that I needed to really do what needed to be done. This was a salon that had been successful, but then it was starting to lose business and lose clientele. And then I came in and with all of my Aveda principles and core values from that company that was ingrained and instilled in me, they didn't do that out here. It was more like a drive-through situation. It was nothing like that. So it was a challenge. And I learned right away after losing lots of money that I had invested in that place that it was time to go, that my season there at that salon was done. And if I could just go back to a little bit of my history and my upbringing in the beauty world, my parents were salon owners. So I knew business and I knew beauty salons or beauty shops, So when I came out here and I had that experience at that salon, even with what I grew up learning, I knew something was off. And I knew that, okay, based on my experience back home at the salon that I actually left from, this isn't what I envisioned for myself. I want to do what I had experienced in my upbringing and then my mentor at the salon that I left in Kansas. I wanted something like that. And I knew that it was going to take a while for me to get there. I knew that I didn't have all of the resources that I needed or the education that I needed, but I was determined. And I was very optimistic about it because I knew that I had a purpose. I didn't know yet what it was, but I knew that I had a purpose and I knew that there was something that I had to offer, but I just had to tap into it. And with all of the education and training that I had received in the field of cosmetology, all of the advanced work, I was super inspired to do something really big and grand. I just didn't know what it was yet.
So you said your parents owned a salon. So was it always your dream and goal to own your own space? Or
no.
Did you want to go in a completely different direction?
I did. I went into a few directions, girl. I saw how hard it was on my mom. And I never wanted to work that hard. I just thought and just the loss that she incurred with losing staff and at the time they were booth renters, but it's all the same thing, losing team members and just the expense, what it took to promote her business and just everything that she went through from the products that she used and the time frame that it took for her to do her services. I was like, forget that. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to school for computer technology. And yeah, I didn't finish that. I learned pretty quickly that that's not my jam. Programming wasn't my thing. I loved math, but I didn't love that.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to school, then I went to business school, and I was like, okay, yeah, nope, don't like that either.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I said, okay, fine, let me get back in the beauty world. And I went and got my nail license to do nails. Mm-hmm. And so first I apprenticed under my mom. Then I went and got my license to do nails. And I did nails for like 7 years. And I really liked doing nails until I got bored of doing nails. Mm-hmm. And I realized that, okay, I actually want to do hair. And so at that time, by the time I was ready to do hair, I was ready to leave Kansas City because I had outgrown, I felt Kansas City. I just outgrew that space and I wanted more culture around me. So I moved to Atlanta and I was in my 20s.
And that's like the Black Mecca, as
Yes.
some people call it. So there could be a lot of business there.
It was a lot going on in Atlanta, including myself. I was I have stories I can't repeat on air.
Come on, hot girl summers.
It was a hot girl Atlanta time. But what Atlanta taught me, and also what my mom taught me, was to not give up on what it is that I wanted to do. Well, first figure out what I wanted to do. And I initially moved to Atlanta to model. I had gotten into modeling before I left Kansas City, only to find out I was too short, and still size 6 at that time, still too big. And also, you're going to love this, I wasn't Black enough, or I wasn't white enough. I was beige.
Too racially ambiguous.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because now I feel like that's all you see is racially ambiguous. And I'm glad to a certain degree we've moved past the stick figure, I guess, need for model. Like that's fine size, but that we're seeing a gamut of size and color because we all don't look the same.
Yeah. And that I said, okay, fine. I'm going to solve that problem. So I'm just going to do hair for trunk shows is what they were called in Atlanta. So I found a master stylist that I learned underneath. I was her apprentice and I got to kind of travel around in the city and do fun fashion shows and be behind the scenes. So that settled that need for me to want to be a model because I was actually doing models' hair,
So did that teach you like, I think certain skills that you learned that would not come from cosmetology school of...
Absolutely.
Did you have to learn how to do hair faster?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my mom, she was like the fastest Jerry curl given hairstylist in Kansas City. So I learned speed and cutting and styling from my mom initially. But then when I went to Atlanta and I had to do that behind the scenes, it was intimidating. There was a lot of pressure to perform and to deliver. And yeah, you had to do it fast. Like you had no time really. And really, I wasn't the lead. I was there to assist. There's always a lead. So my coach at the time, or my leader at the time, she'd just tell me what I needed to do and I did it,
Well, there's a lot to say to that point, because I think being in a space where you are being mentored and being able to take direction and constructive criticism, I think is so important and something many folks can lack in these spaces of feeling like, well, I know how to do hair. I grew up doing hair. My mama did hair, went to school already. You can't tell me nothing sort of situation. And I see that a lot. And it makes me wonder how you're able to differentiate, like when you're hiring somebody that to come into your salon, to know that they're still being mentored. Because I see it when I'm there that you are, even when you're doing someone else's hair, that you're sort of looking around and you're giving advice or suggestions in a way that feels helpful and encouraging to the young women in your salon. But knowing that I have had experiences, and I know a lot of women have had experience of going to salons, and it's that proverbial, you're waiting for an hour and a half before you get seen, or, and then people are on their phones and people are, there's just a lot of chaos in the salons. Like, even if you just see something, you see beauty shop, or a barber shop, you can see that. It makes me think about like the movie Poetic Justice.
Oh yeah.
And it's can be typical in a lot of spaces. You get that feeling, and some people are cool with it, but other folks are like, that's not the type of environment I want to be in. But, I say all that to say, wanting to know how you or what you have learned from other folks to be able to give that sort of mentorship and guidance so that your team all understands like the vibe of Radically Curly is different.
Yes. So part of our brand, our motto or our tagline is "We rock the fabric of your hair" is our tagline. But our core values are built on trust and education. And when I bring people in, I always start there. We rock the fabric of your hair, but our core values begin with trust and education. There's a partnership between me and my team. I have my times where I need to hold you accountable, and then I want you to hold me accountable. We have agreements, we have systems that we follow, and I think that that's what has allowed us to stand apart or stand out in the industry, especially here in Las Vegas, because we have a standard. And I was able to cultivate that based on all of the years that I've been in business, all the years I've been around, from my mom to my mentor I had in Atlanta to my mentor I had in Kansas before I moved to Nevada. I took pieces of knowledge from each experience and just created this way of doing business with my team, because my team, they're also my customer. So I treat them the way I would want to be treated. So that's why we're able to vibe so well. We have this fun culture, but we get down to business, and everything is, it's all laid out in a way to where I don't want you to ever feel like you ever need to leave our salon. I want you to feel like this is my forever place.
Yeah, well, it does for me. We go together. We've established our long-term commitment to each other. For real.
Yes.
So tell me about Radically Curly and how it came to be. Like, did you sit down and write out a business plan first, or did you start with just yourself, or did you go in knowing, no, we're opening a full salon and I'm hiring folks to work with me?
You're going to love this story. So I first was independent, and I was inside of what we call salon suites. And I was in a relationship with someone, and I was doing meetup groups to help people in our community, our local Las Vegas community, understand their hair, their curly hair. I had curly hair. I knew that the industry was lacking education, let alone representation, but education on what to do with our hair. So I reached out into our local community and had meetup groups. And I initially called our meetup groups the Curly Revolution. Mm-hmm. And then I found out pretty quickly that that was actually trademarked by another company. And so I had t-shirts made. Me and my partner at the time had t-shirts made and was making money. And and doing these meetup groups and getting swag and all of that. And then I was like, okay, I got to hurry up and come up with a different name. So you're going to love this. One of my clients who, sweet, nice, gentle person. He is not a person of color. He doesn't have very much hair on his head. And he just, one day I was talking to him about, hey, I need an idea for a name for we're growing. Our business is growing. We're getting more clients. Mm-hmm. And I knew that was his field, what he was in. He did some type of patent marketing. And so I knew that he was my guy to talk to. And he was my client. And so he started asking me some questions. And I can't remember what he asked me. And he said, you know what? You know who you are. You know what you want. You know what you need. You're radically curly. I said, oh, that's the name.
You're like, let me write that down.
That's the name. And so my partner at the time bought the .com. And next thing you know, I started changing everything over. So I established Radically Curly in 2014. And so we've been thriving for 10 years now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This 10-year anniversary.
Yes.
And you recently moved into a larger salon.
Mm-hmm.
Was that scary to make that next step into a larger space?
It wasn't scary. It was very stressful. It was very stressful because ever since 2014, I had been trying to do that. So I found myself just being content with what the salon suites was offering me. And I kept growing and knocking down walls in these salon suites. And it just got to the point to where, okay, I need a standalone. And it just was, it's not easy. If anyone has ever opened a storefront, you will understand. But it's not easy for a Black woman. It's very stressful not knowing all the things that you need to know. And that did affect my health in a negative way because I wasn't taking care of myself because I wanted so badly to get this done. And but I made it happen. And last year in February, we opened our doors in a 1,500 square foot salon space. And we have 7 chairs and 4 shampoo bowls. That's a big deal. I have my own office, and our name is on the building. Mm-hmm. And I have friends in the industry that would encourage me and say, "You need your own. You need to get out of the salon suites. You really need your name needs to be on the outside of the building." Because when we were in the salon suites, a lot of people thought that when they would come, first-time clients, they were looking for Radically Curly on the outside of the building. And the reason why is because we had built our brand and we had reached like across the country and across the sea to where people, when they were coming to Vegas, they wanted to come see this Radically Curly and only to find out we were in a salon suite. And there was nothing wrong with that. And hats off to everyone that has done that. And if you've ever done that, you know the struggle with that is not always easy. Or doing business inside of a salon suite, you can only grow so far. And then at some point you need to decide, am I just going to stay this way or am I going to expand? So the expansion, it was very stressful, very costly. And yes, you do need a business plan. You need a team of people around you that not only believe in you and your brand, but that can also open doors for you so that you can get the right contractors or the right people to negotiate your leasing terms and get a business attorney. All these things I never knew. And it stressed me out.
That's a question I have. So for somebody who is thinking of wanting to own their own salon or just starting their own business, I think a lot of times over the years I've been to many of conversations and roundtables, discussions, especially talking to Black women or women in general or Black folks, and people say, oh, that's the American dream. You need to own your own business. Mm-hmm. And I firmly believe that everybody does not need to own their own business. Like, it's not for everyone. Mm-hmm. You know, it's such a stressful thing to do on a lot of different planes, whether it's the opening the business, planning, and then keeping it going, finding time for yourself, and not working yourself to death, but also knowing how to hire, knowing how to manage. All of these things like come into play that people don't talk about. So when you say that you need to have this team of people, like, what surprised you that you needed that you didn't know to start to get things moving?
What really surprised me the most was having an agent, a commercial real estate agent that actually believed in my brand and believed in me as a person. And that was shocking for me because over the years, I had went out on my own looking at commercial spaces and would always get so frustrated and upset that there was something wrong with me or that I wasn't good enough for these people to bring me in to their spaces. And I had a lot of doors closed in my face. And mainly because I believe, I wasn't told this, but I got that. You know how you have your intuition?
Oh, yeah.
I got this feeling that they just didn't want me in the space with what I was bringing forth to the space.
Do you think that that was because it's a salon, or it's because it's a salon that they think was going to bring in a certain crowd?
Yes, that part. It was. Unfortunately, that's how I felt. And I finally found an agent who was referred to me by a client. I just one day just poured my feelings with the client. I said, I really need this. And look, my team is growing. Our brand is growing. If I don't do this, we're just going to be stuck here in this salon suite. And it was the right person, the right time, the right day. She put a phone call in. The agent called me right back. And the very next day came to visit my salon suite to get to know me and who I am and what my business is about, what is Radically Curly. And when she found out that my ultimate goal was to help encourage people to embrace their naturally curly hair, because that's what it all really it boils down to, is embracing your natural hair. She, who was a non-Black woman, she understood the assignment. She knew that, wow, I'm gonna help you find a place. And it took a little while. And once we found that location, I took one peek in the window and I said, this is it. This is my space. Now, for people who are listening, the ideal dream is to own your own building. And I just want to put that out there, that leasing is not owning the building. So I am in a contract. I am in a lease agreement. And with a lease agreement comes terms and things like that. And that was, again, part of the process that I wasn't familiar with, where I had to take the space as is. And now, would they have done that to someone else? I don't know. But I had to take the space as is, and I had to build it out the way I wanted to, or take it as is, because it was a former hair salon that had been there for 24 years. So the owner of the building was like, hey, it's a salon. You can do what you want with it, but I'm not putting any money into it. And a lot of times when you're leasing a commercial space, you get these credits and things to help you get ahead. They weren't trying to do that. So all they gave me was like a 6-month little warranty on the AC unit, and that was it. And I think I got like 3 months rent credit, 1 month free every year, for 3 years. So it wasn't an easy process for me. Everything that I did to get that space was definitely, in my opinion, like a sacrifice and something that I had to learn how to adjust to. And it just wasn't easy. So having my name, Danielle, having my credit, having a brand, Radically Curly, and then having money in the bank, and not just money that was just dumped in there. Like, they want to know where you got your money from, how long it's been in the bank, and what is your plan with this money, and how are you going to put furniture in there, and all these things that they ask you is stuff that you don't think that you need to know. Then you have to think about what does the city require? What does Henderson require? What kind of laws do you have to follow?
Yeah.
All that stuff is just, it piles on you and piles on you, and you don't really know. You just wanted to open a hair salon and you thought it was just going to be easy. No, girl, it's not going to be easy. But thankfully, I did have a supportive team inside my salon. My daughter, who is my number one, my rock, and then my family back home. And then, like I said, I had my outside team, which would be my professional team around me, helping me, and then my mentors and stuff like that. So I was able to get through it, but it wasn't easy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I find that, well, one, with commercial leases, I'm very familiar being in one myself. And I think the scariest part was the terms of like how long, because they aren't year leases. You have to do 5, 8, 10, 15-year leases a lot of times. And that's scary in itself, of thinking, okay, not only do I need to make this work, like I am signing on the dotted line that I'm going to make this happen for at least 10 years. And so that is scary. And so I think finding a good commercial real estate agent is really, really important, because there's so much more to it than leasing an apartment. And I think people don't realize that. So thinking about now having this business, and you said that, your health took a toll as you were trying to put all of this together. What did you have to adjust, and how did you have to rethink how you were approaching your work, or how did you make the change so that your health, that you stayed healthy or became healthier?
Well, a lot of it was just coming to terms with, okay, I'm not getting any younger, and I need to make sure that my internal things that are going on, that I'm okay. So I, went to see a doctor. I saw a heart doctor. And I knew that, okay, something's going on. I just need to make sure I'm all right. And then my A1C was elevated, but not to the point to where it was in bad shape. Mm-hmm. So, when they tell you your A1C or you have hypertension or anything like that, the first thing they tell you need to do is what? Lose weight. Yeah. So I knew that I had gained weight, and I was carrying around, a lot of baggage. And when I look at it from a spiritual place, I knew that it was protecting me from all the things that I had been through, from the studio salon suite that I was in, and all the changes that I had to go through, and the people that was around us and watching us grow. And there was a lot of things that were going on behind the scenes that no one really knew about, that I knew that we deserve more. Radically Curly deserves more. We shouldn't have to put up with this. So there was that going on. And so I decided, once I got into our space and got comfortable and everything had settled down, that I needed to start making some changes. And that meant I need to start focusing on my health. So I called a meeting with my team, and I let them know that I am this year, 2024, is going to be the year of me regaining my health and strength back. And I got support from my team, obviously. And of course, they are like, yeah, take as much time as you need. And I'm like, well, I still need to be here to help lead.
Yeah.
But I need you all to also be the leaders that you are. That means that there are going to be times when I'm going to need you to take the wheel. There are going to be times when I'm going to need you to step in so that I can take care of myself. And what that looked like was coming in a little bit later, taking one of my days off of the schedule and still showing up and being present. That also meant me not training people from the start, from the bottom all the way, and bringing them up to where they're masters in the chair. I no longer had it in me because I had given so much that I needed to fill my cup back up. It had emptied out.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Basically, I just had an agreement with my team that, you know, this is something that I need to do for myself this year and going forward so that I can make this change so that we can continue to grow. And that's what I did.
And so you feel better?
I feel way better. So much better. I'm less stressed. I know what activates my stress. So when I feel activated, I just, take a step back and I know what to do. I know how to stay calm. And I don't know, I never realized that I was such a high-strung person. But after I thought about it, I was like, okay, yeah, this is why I'm a high-strung person, because I wore so many hats.
Yeah.
And so what I've done is I've taken a lot off my plate. And so now I can stay calm and...
But that requires, a good team, right?
It does.
In order for you to delegate and trust that the work will still get done.
Yes.
And done to the caliber in which your customers are, and what they expect. And so, was that hard or did you feel like you had already trained so many folks, bringing them up that part you weren't as concerned about of the quality of the work?
No, I wasn't worried about the quality of the work changing because I had created another me, my daughter. And then with my team, I felt like each one of my team members, not only did I pour into my daughter, but I poured into everyone else. And so I knew that they had the tools that they needed and that they had me and my daughter. So it wasn't hard. It just was an adjustment phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the hardest part of being a business owner?
The hardest part is really acknowledging when you fail, when you fall, just acknowledging it and just getting up and just trying again. Like, I really didn't know that curly hair was going to be like my passion when I was with my mom. I mean, even though my mom was doing jerry curls back in the day, I really didn't know that. And then when social media was born in 2012, the competition to perform and excel and be seen and be famous and all of that, there was a lot of pressure. And for our brand, there was a lot of pressure for our brand. And because we were in direct competition with other educators here in the city, and we weren't trying to compete, it was just that there was a small group of us that did curly hair. And so then there's social media. And so for me, I felt that I didn't enjoy competing in that space. I love marketing. I love everything about marketing, but I don't enjoy the social media aspect of it because it's so stressful and almost false, not real. You really have to put your heart into it, in my opinion, to be successful in that area. And for me, I am such a honest person that I didn't like having to compete in that area and make myself be something that I'm not.
Does that feel like it's like the competition piece of it that you're having to feel like, oh, I'm better than, or like it's that sort of competition?
Yeah, it's a lot of, in the beauty industry, there are powers that be that really kind of control who gets the recognition. And in that, I don't like that space at all. I'd rather just sit back and let my work speak for itself. I'd rather sit back and just be involved with my community, really be a part of the growth of my community. I'd rather sit and talk with your daughter about her hair than to be on some social media platform praising myself, or talking about the next thing, or it just seems not genuine. So I'd rather just stay in my lane and create new lanes by creating leaders within my salon, offering jobs with my company, building my brand, our brand to be successful so that our girls, everyone eats at our salon.
Yeah.
Everyone's plate is full. Those are the things that I focus on. I don't focus on all that other stuff. And thankfully, I have someone in place that can help and be creative on the social media part of it. But it really, really took a lot out of me. And to the point to where social media was so big at some time, at one point, as you can recall, it was like if you weren't on there, you weren't doing it.
You don't even exist.
Yeah. And so being in that space and really pushing our business out there, that's how we became very well known. It was because I was pushing us out there and really being authentic with what I was putting out there. And only to find out that, really the beauty industry really doesn't care about what Radically Curly's doing. They care about that stylist over there that has over 100,000 followers. And and I had to really put myself in check and say, look, you just stop looking at that and just focus on what's important. And so what's important was what we're doing for our community and especially the younger people in our community.
So were you surprised, because you said towards the beginning that you were the first Black-owned curly salon. Were you surprised that you were the first when you moved into that space? Did you expect there to have already been established? Because there's a lot of curly hair out there, and a lot of Black folks with curly hair out there. But it's not just Black folks; other folks have curly hair too. But it's always something that's been around. But for you to be the first, was that a surprise?
No, it wasn't. And the reason why it wasn't a surprise is because I did not have anyone to go to, because I knew that was what I wanted. I knew that the brands that I would align myself with and the manufacturers that I would align myself with did not have the education or training that I was looking for in that space. And I knew that there was something wrong when I would go to a trade show or to a big event and there's educators on stage who are not Black or brown, who are doing hair on Black or brown people. And they're creating these looks, but they're not being taught by us. And so I knew it was a problem. And I knew that the only way that I could help solve that problem was to be an example and to create a salon that only focused on curly hair. And yeah, I was surprised, like in that we were the first out here in Nevada. So yeah, I was kind of surprised, but it really, truly wasn't that big of a surprise because I knew that there were no resources. There was nothing out there. So
when folks go to cosmetology school, is there curriculum for curly hair or for ethnic hair that folks have to take in order to graduate?
So I'm glad you brought that up. In 2019, I had created a petition that got over 100,000 signatures because I wanted cosmetology schools to have a curriculum for natural and curly hair. The issue isn't that they don't cover texture and curl in cosmetology school. They touch on it, but there's not enough emphasis on texture and curly hair in all of the aspects of cosmetology. So if you're a literal person and you're going to cosmetology to learn how to work on natural and curly hair, and you want to learn how to cut natural and curly, natural and highly textured hair or tight curled hair, and you're literal, you would probably want to see that on
just maybe
natural or tight curl hair. So it wasn't until 2019 when we had, I'm saying we, because there were a lot of us collectively who were really trying to get out there and make a change in the industry. And then the Crown Act happened, and we can talk about that in a moment. But in cosmetology, the requirements should be changed. And so the petition is, yes, we need the education. Now we need the requirements to match when you're being licensed. So when you're going to take your test, there should be some requirements in testing so that you can get your license, because that's the piece that's also missing. All these years, all these decades that cosmetology has been around, that has been the missing piece. Yeah, you can get your license, but if you don't want to learn how to do curly hair, you don't need to learn how to do it in order to get your license. So that's an issue. But with hair cutting, hair coloring, perming, chemical services, and all of that, you get a piece of paper that gives you a certification, almost like a degree or a trade certificate, so that you can go and do hair. You're not getting a piece of paper that says, hey, you're licensed to do hair and you can do everything because you went to school and you went for 1,600 hours or whatever, and now you know it all. That's not how it works. And that's where people get misled, because they think that because you're licensed, that you know how to do it all. And I know that even though I'm licensed, I wouldn't know how to do certain things, and I'm not going to pretend to act like I know how to do it.
Yeah.
So that's the issue in the industry, is that the requirements need to change so that people really truly understand how to do curly hair and natural hair.
So it sort of sounds like there's certainly not a requirement for everyone to learn how to do Black folks' hair, basically.
Correct.
Is what that sounds like. But it does sound like everyone has to learn how to do Caucasian hair, straight hair. And so with that, is that an accurate statement?
I would say it's accurate depending on the school that you choose to go to get your education. Because just like one of my former colleagues in the industry would always say that beauty schools are segregated like churches. It's kind of true. It's sad but true.
And so how does one go and find a good cosmetology school?
You know, it really isn't about the school at this point. It's more about get licensed and then get more education once you get your license. Find a mentor. And find a space where you can grow.
Because you said something to the effect of a master stylist. So is that an official designation that someone gets after so many years, or a certain curriculum of training, or Where does that title come from?
It's a title that's used too loosely.
So I can be a master stylist?
You could get out of cosmetology school, get licensed, and call yourself a master stylist. Nobody's going to know. So I give credit where credit's due. My mentors were master stylists. They had lots of education and they knew how to do all hair types and could teach me well. So that's where I give credit. But there are people who use the term loosely.
And so if you go to cosmetology school in one state, say Kansas, and then you come here, do you have to redo your testing to get licensed here, or do things transfer over?
You can transfer over, or they call it reciprocate. You could do that, but if I had my opinion,
what you do?
I think that there should be some fundamental math going on there. Because some schools or some states only allow 1,000 hours to be completed, where other states have 2,000 hours. So I'm just saying somewhere the math isn't mathing. It should just be one standard across the board in every state.
So is there, where does Nevada fall? Do you know? It's like as far as in the middle of the number of hours needed compared to some other places?
Yes, they're about at 1,600 hours.
And do you feel like that's enough time for people to understand the industry and the craft to then graduate, or do you think that number should be different?
Oh, I'm going to get in trouble here.
These are your opinions as a master stylist.
As someone who has been there and who has gone to cosmetology schools to be a guest artist, I believe that the intro to cosmetology, there is not enough emphasis on Black and brown people and people with textured hair and highly textured hair. So the intro to cosmetology is a short time frame. I can't remember how long it is. It may be like 3 months. Whereas then you become a junior quickly right after that with these advanced workbook fundamentals and terms and things that they take you through. And then next thing you know, you're thrown out on the floor. So everything that you learn, really, it's the hours, the thousands of hours, really is just you doing hair, clocking in and out. And so then there's, like a morning class where you have, you're going through your workbook and you're learning how to pass the State Board of Cosmetology exam. You have that, they call it theory. You have that for about an hour each day, but the rest of your hours are just you being on the floor doing hair, making mistakes, or, learning from whichever hairdresser that's now an educator that's there as your teacher, learning from them. And that could be anybody. So it's really a blurred line. I always tell people when they say, what school should you go to? Where would you recommend? And I always have my top 2 that I recommend, but I always suggest that the student go and just take a tour of each school and get a vibe, see how they feel, and see if the people who are on the floor look like they're happy and if they're having fun, because that's how you know. And then ask them if you can, hey, do you like it here? What do you like about the school here? Are you learning are you getting what you wanted out of it?
That makes me think about midwifery, actually, because we had some deeper conversations on past episodes about midwifery and licensing. And at one point, licensing was not required in a lot of places. And then it was. But what that also did was push a lot of people out from being able to do the work that they already knew how to do, because they did train like under folks in and just not, wasn't state bound, right? And so, and it also put a lot of people out of work because then they couldn't afford the trainings and all the hoops that you need to jump through. And currently Nevada does not have a specific around midwifery being licensed, but it's something that's been brought to the state legislature on a few different times. But what has been brought forth a number of years ago was hair braiding. Hair braiding didn't used to be a thing that needed a license. And then, and I didn't write it down, but I think it was probably about 2014, 2015 in Nevada that it became a thing. And there was a big uproar, I remember, and at that time I worked for the Sentinel Voice newspaper and did an article about it to talk a little bit about why it was becoming a space that was sanctioned by licensing in order for people to do it. And so I just wanted to get your thoughts on whether or not you think hair braiding itself needs to be licensed, but now that it has been licensed, do you see a change, a difference in, how the work is approached or anything like that?
Absolutely. It should be licensed. I believe that there has to be some sort of accountability there for the person who is doing the hair, doing the work. And when it comes down to sanitation and infectious diseases, that piece is actually one of the most important pieces of what we do. In our, we're touching people's scalps, and in our field, there are things, there are viruses, there's things that are contagious that could go on, and a lot of people don't think that could happen to them, but it could happen to them. Cleaning your combs and your brushes, your tools, and having a very sanitary workspace is definitely, it should be licensed for that reason. Whereas in braiding, I think that it had been overlooked for so long that once it did finally become a law, I was excited. I was like, yes, because now people are going to take us seriously when we offer braiding services. Now we're going to take braiding services out of your living room in front of your TV and bring it into the salon in a professional space. So as a professional, I love it. I think that it's great. We have 3 braiders in our salon. One, her licensing is only for natural hair braiding. And I'm really grateful for that because she's the bomb. She knows what she's been braiding for like over 20 years, but now she's a licensed braider, which means that, it has legitimized braiding. And I love it. And I think it should continue that way. And I think that they need to allow braiders, they need to expand it a little bit so that braiders are able to wash and blow dry hair because they're not under their license, it's not covered.
Really? So they can only braid.
Which is why you if you pay attention to social media, I try not to, but when you see sometimes when people say you need to come with your hair already washed and blown out, that's why.
Because they're not allowed to.
They're not allowed to do it.
And so that requires them to get the full license to
they
do
would
that?
they'd have to go for the full
and learn how to do everything else too, even if all they want to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think that is something that, well, actually, let me back up. Is it that way everywhere?
I'm not sure in other states.
But for sure in Nevada. So is that something you think that should be taken up with the state board and the legislature to expand braiding to maybe just cover wash and blow dry so that they don't have to, because they may not be interested in coloring and that sort of thing?
Correct. Okay. They just need to add a little bit more to the license in terms of like sanitation and infectious disease so that they understand. And then it would be covered. And
so that's just like, would be like 10 more hours or something added to their curriculum.
If that. Yeah. And then they'd be able to blow dry and wash hair. It's just that simple. And they're losing money.
Yeah.
And so thankfully we're in a full service salon. So if a client did want that, we could handle it by booking them with someone else first and then booking them with our braider.
Gotcha. So the Crown Act, you briefly mentioned that. It's something that we've talked about here early on the podcast. We were able to have the architect of the Crown Act on. And so, and she was here, not in the studio. We actually did it at our office. So it was our first soiree into a live podcast, which was hard and noisy. But it was a good episode. Folks should go back and find. But thinking about the Crown Act specifically, it is something that has passed in Nevada and in a lot of other places. But most recently, I ran across an article, and I want to say it may be Texas, where a lot of the schools were found as to be violating the Crown Act. I think partially because some people don't know that it exists. And then I can have a whole conversation on implementation, because we can put all the laws together that we want, and we can lobby for them, and they actually become a law. But if no one knows about it, it's the proverbial tree in the forest, right? And so sometimes folks don't know what their rights are when it comes to that. But wanted to get your thoughts on the Crown Act and how you see, if you see it has played any part in maybe even an uptick in clientele, because now people have more opportunities to wear their hair in a natural state, as opposed to having to get that professional, straight hair in order to go to work.
I have so much respect and love for the Crown Act. In 2019, when they passed the law in California, I was all over it and started using my platform to help to get the law passed here in Nevada. And thanks to our local government, it just passed quickly. But unfortunately, how companies and educational institutions are getting around the Crown Act law is that they are creating rules and requirements and dress codes. And I know this because I have clients that have told me. And that's how people are still in a way breaking the Crown Act law, is because they are forcing their student or their employee to follow a set of guidelines that may say your dress code, included in your dress code, you must wear your hair this, ABC. So yes, an uptick in our business, I would have to say what the Crown Act did for Radically Curly is it was like insurance. It was more of, yes, we know, we've been talking about it for a while now. So yes, you come on in. We're ready for you.
Right.
Come on in. We're ready. We've been here. We're ready to help serve you and help you feel even more confident in your natural hair, and to help you understand what you need to use out here in this desert for your natural hair, because the environment really plays a really huge part in how our crowns look out here.
Oh yeah, Vegas is no joke when it comes to the dryness of the air itself, the hardness of the water,
wind.
The wind, the I call it the natural blow dryer that I get, past couple of days. I'm like, no, I got to stand this way now, because otherwise my hair will blow dry itself up into a Gumby.
Yeah.
And that's not attractive.
Yes. So thank you to the Crown Act for, creating the law. But I have to say that I do have a bone to pick with the beauty industry. And I jokingly had a hot take with one of our social media posts recently. And my hot take was, why is the Crown Act not, to the beauty industry, why is the Crown Act not a law in all 50 states?
Right.
So, but I've been talking about it for years and years. And I just feel that, unless it doesn't affect you, you're not going to talk about it. And unfortunately, that's just how it is in the United States. And we just have to keep pressing forward and keep, fighting the fight.
Well, and I think the other important thing about the Crown Act, like, it's hard. It sucks that we need something to say that we are allowed to wear our hair the way it comes out of our bodies. Mm-hmm. But even more so, I feel like what the Crown Act has done is tried to loosen that chokehold we have on relaxers. Mm-hmm. And as a young girl, with what some folks called good hair as a child, I still needed at some point to get a relaxer because it was almost like that's just what you do. Mm-hmm. And so you can have straight hair, so you can be presentable to go to school and all of that. And that was ingrained in me from my grandparents and beyond because of the way that they grew up. And so now I think less people are getting relaxers, but I'm sure that there are still plenty that are. And it's not any shade against anybody who decides that that's what they want to do, but it felt at a time more forced. And especially what we know now as to the cancer-causing ingredients in a lot of these chemicals and the amount of lawsuits that have arisen and that are still in process right now, because there's this direct connection of relaxers with uterine cancers, which could cause us not to be able to produce, which could get into a bigger conversation around sterilization of Black women, and what that has done to our communities, all in trying to assimilate and fit in, all in a way so that we can get that good job. And so having the Crown Act, is to push back on that. But I think it's bigger than that. I don't know how we get to a place where we really feel like we can embrace our hair, like on a larger level, because there's nothing wrong with straight hair. There's nothing wrong with weaves and all of that. But it feels as though we went from relaxers to more weaves, and not just as a protective style, because it can be a great protective style, but as a way to be easily digested by the larger population.
I think our generation, we get it. I feel that if you're in your 40s and 50s and younger, you get it. But I think our elders, 50s and older, I think that's where a lot of the stigmatism still lives. And we still have young adults and grands and great-grands that are possibly still being raised by those generations. And I think that as long as we as a community continue to provide the necessary tools and resources for the people who are wearing their hair natural so that their hair does look nice and presentable, then a lot of those old whispers in the ear, we won't hear it as much. I think it really kind of boils down to where we are today and how far we have come and grown as a society. And for us as Black people, really embracing the multicultural aspect of who we are and not just putting us in a box of like, okay, so, you have soft curly hair, but you would look better if your hair was straighter, We gotta really just stop telling people that they would look better anyway,
Right.
Like really just, and really just giving people space to use their voice, and maybe using their voice means how they wear their hair. how they show up to a meeting, how they show up to a track meet. I mean, look at the Olympics, for example.
Yes. I mean, I loved seeing all of the big hair and the braids and the long nails and the, even the grills,
our culture.
All of it.
That's who we are. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the judgment that we're so used to. We've been through enough as a people. So we really need to let go of judging ourselves and just allow people to be. And yes, I understand there are going to be areas where, there are rules that you have to follow and there are dress codes that you have to follow. But if there's a space where you know that you're being discriminated against, then you have to speak up because the Crown Act can't help you if you're not speaking up and using your voice. You may have to reach out to your local, government and say, hey, this is happening. This happened to me. I was denied this job because I really think it was because of my hair. You're going to have to just speak up because that's what the Crown Act is there for.
Yeah, I think that is really important. And there are avenues. You can always reach out to your local representative, assembly and senate, or your congressperson. But you can also, go to NERC, which is the Nevada Equal Rights Commission, and let them know what's happening. And I think it is important that we report and do those things. As a business owner, I know that you are that you have your hand on politics and trying to keep up with all the different things that are going on. Do you feel like that's a necessity as a business owner to understand politics and to be engaged?
Absolutely. And especially because our platform is so large, I want people to know that it's important. I want people to know that I had ancestors that were denied to get on a bus to go vote. So it is important. And yes, politics plays a big role. And even when I was, looking for my space and trying to figure out how am I going to do this, knowing who the people were in my local government in Henderson, who are they? Do they know who I am? Do they care? And really kind of connecting with the chamber and figuring out, okay, who's really about, helping to support a Black-owned business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in that lane of what am I trying to say? When we get to the point of opening a business, we do have to think about where we're putting it. Like not just, oh, well, that spot is cheap, or that, I can afford the rent over there, but also looking at who represents that area, and then also obviously the demographic of the areas for your clientele, but knowing who your representation is and will they have your back, if things start to come up. Yes,
it's so important.
So one of the things I always ask people before we end is, well, actually, I'm going to back up. I have one more question, and then I'm going to ask you that question.
Okay.
So you said early on that your daughter, Mimi, who I know and love well, and found out that went to school and had classes with my daughter at the same time,
yes.
That she is a full-time stylist as well in your salon. Was that on purpose meant to become a family business? Because she didn't run away from it the way you ran away from it in the beginning.
Actually, yeah, she saw that I was struggling and she decided she wanted to help me.
So sweet.
Yeah.
Now I love her even more.
Yeah, she saw that I had went through a few stylists and I was just doing things too fast and didn't really know what I was doing, and reached a point where I was down to just me, one other person, and me. Mm-hmm. And she was like, I've got it, Mom. I'm here. I'm going to help you.
And I think that makes it probably even more special that it's a family business, and that you're able to share in that. And she has to be learning so much just on a day-to-day basis at her young age.
And I learned so much from her too. her youth really inspires me. And having young women around me, it is a beacon of hope.
It keeps you young.
Yeah, a beacon of hope, beacon of light. And I hold the torch for them so that they can shine. I just really, want to have this space so that they can do their thing and that they can be mentors as well.
And so now I want to ask you about democracy. I always ask everyone, what is democracy to you? And do you think we have it?
Oh, wow. Democracy, if I could just use one word, I would just say freedom is what democracy is to me. I think about other countries like in Afghanistan and Iran. And I know that on a spiritual level, women can choose for modest reasons to cover their hair, cover their face. But I know that in some countries, they're forced and they're repressed. And in that, I'm grateful for our freedom here. That I'm able to have a business and keep it open where I can celebrate all women and men and allow them to come in and feel safe and be able to express their hair how they want to and to be able to walk around in the United States free to be able to wear their hair the way they want to without having to cover it or being forced to. And again, all respect to those for religious reasons who choose to cover. I understand. But there are areas in this world where that freedom can be taken away from you. And I'm really grateful to be able to have that freedom. It means a lot to me to be able to have a space where not only we can do that, but guess what? We can wear our hair natural too. And wear braids and locks down to the booty braids. We can do all of that. And that's a part of our culture. And I love that. And I'm grateful to be a part of that and to be able to help pioneer a movement to move us forward.
Yeah, I'd love to get to a point where, even in government, that it's more acceptable. Because I remember Michelle Obama said, I think it was in one of her books, or it might have been an interview where she said that she was so happy to be able to wear braids again.
Yes.
After she got out of the White House, because she was like, I couldn't do it. She's like, I could have, but if I did, that would have been the entire conversation. And that wasn't what she wanted the focus to be on. So I can't imagine if Kamala came out in some braids.
Oh, girl.
People wouldn't know what to do.
They would have a fit.
Right. They wouldn't. And changing of the hair at all is always
it's too much for a Black woman to change her look.
Right.
Oh, God, no.
And that changes on a regular basis.
Yes.
On a regular basis. Well, I want to wrap up with two things. One, you mentioned Jerry curls, and I'm like, Jerry curls are back. And I saw it on the TikTok, and I'm like,
don't do it, y'all.
I know. I was
don't
like,
do it.
And they're charging a lot of money for people, because I saw the rollers, and I was like, oh, I remember those rollers, because my mama had them, and I used to play with them and put them in my doll's hair.
Perm rods.
Yes, because they were fun, because they had the little stretchy thing on it. And I was like, oh, she's doing that. It's a whole thing. And I'm like, well, look at that. I don't know if the chemicals have gotten better or not, but it seems like,
there's two versions just for the audience. There's the permanent wave for straight hair. That would be our people who are not people of color. It's the permanent wave. And then there's it's a long word, the ammonium thioglycolate cold wave perm.
Okay. And that's a Jerry curl.
That's for us.
The cold wave.
Now, the cold wave, it can grow your hair. your hair. If you remember back in the 80s, there was some long Jerry curls.
That's true. That's true.
But it can also damage the hair because of the chemical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So stay away from that. No, do your research, y'all.
So that's not something you'll be offering in the
No.
No. Okay, so if people want to find you on the socials, where can they find you or find the salon?
You may find us at Radically Curly. That's our what do you call it?
Our handle.
Our handle. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Or our hashtag. And then radicallycurly.com.
Okay. And then the salon itself is located?
Henderson.
Yay.
Las Vegas, but Henderson.
Yes, right.
The same.
On the outskirts.
Yeah.
Near Green Valley High School.
Yes.
That's how I always it's right there by the high school.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
I am so appreciative of this conversation, and I knew I would learn something, which is always a goal for me.
What'd you learn?
Well, I learned more about you, for instance. I learned a little bit more about your background, but I think I didn't know what a cold wave was. So there's that. A lady asked me not too long ago if I had a Jerry curl.
I get that a lot.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm like, no, I don't have an ammonium, whatever you just said.
Cold wave.
No, I don't have that. But more so, I think I understand better why your salon is the way that it is. It is your heart, and it is just your essence and presence that has spilled over into your team, and obviously you see it in your daughter, but more so it's the vibe that's there. Yes. And I think you can come for a curly cut and all of that, but and color, but you can also come for the comfort. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's also really, really important, because changing your hair can be scary. I recently changed my hair, which you did for me with your magic hands, and so all of that. But I wasn't nervous, not at all. Not at any point of it was I nervous that I wasn't going to like it, because even if I didn't love it off top, which I did, I know that you would have listened to me mm-hmm. to help me get where I needed to get to, instead of just saying, well, this is what you said, so here you go. And I've known people who've said that about salons. They go in with a picture or a style or something, and instead of being honest with the person about whether they should do that, they just give them whatever. And sometimes the customer isn't always right, just because mm-hmm. we don't really know how that's going to look. And I take your experience and your professionalism seriously of being said, that may not do mm-hmm. what you think it's going to do mm-hmm. on your hair. And I think that's important.
And one thing I do tell our clients too, and our girls, we do this too. We say we have like an open chair policy. So if there's something that's off and you don't feel comfortable with, or maybe there's one hair out of place, or maybe the color isn't quite what you expected, all you have to do is reach out to us. But we communicate that mm-hmm. so that you feel comfortable and confident when you leave. That if you're not sure about it, just reach out to us and we'll make it right for you.
And I appreciate that. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's that warranty we need.
Yes.
But once again, thank you for being on Sticky Note Conversations. I hope to have you back. I think there could be so many things we could talk about, especially around just the laws and policy around hair.
Let's do it.
I think that people should, want to understand some of that a little bit more. And the cosmetology board, which you should be on.
I should. I want to. I thought about it.
Sometimes there's all these openings, and I tell people all the time, if you go on, there's a website, and I'll see if we can link it, but for the state, that lists all of the open boards and commissions, and people can apply to be on these different boards and commissions so that you can give back and give your expertise.
Yes,
and sometimes they're looking for someone who's an actual professional, or sometimes they're looking for somebody who's just had experience in that. And so, I see your name on those. I want to see your name on those licenses.
I'm visualizing it right now.
Yes, we're going to make that happen, because I think, your voice is very much needed, and we need to have that advocacy around curly hair. It's important.
We do.
It's so important.
I'm ready for it.
But thank you, Danielle.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Erika.
I appreciate you. So once again, this has been another episode of Sticky Note Conversations, and I am your host, Erika Washington, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to Sticky Note Conversations with Erika Washington. Hosted and executively produced by Erika Washington, with music, mixing, and editing by Black Gypsy LLC. Special thanks to KUNV 91.5 in Las Vegas. This show is powered by Make It Work Nevada, a project of Tides Advocacy.